It's your boy Dame, back again, as promised. Subscribe to Dame's World if you haven't. If you have, I'm sure you're enjoying the ride, and let's continue to ride, continue the dialogue, continue the conversation that's thought-provoking. And today, I'm getting into my favorite segment of all time, the Real Talks, episode 12. This is where we break down constructs, ideas, practices, ways of life, all that shit. And we get to hear your opinion and my take on it as well. And today's topic is a great topic. Today's topic is human bias. And we're going to talk about whether or not we can eliminate human bias. We're going to talk about objectivity. We're going to talk about intersubjective agreements. We're going to talk about all the things around the nature of human bias, because we have a lot of opinions, a lot of thoughts about whether we can eliminate bias or not. And I'm here to provide my take. I have a couple notes with me. First note says that we are all subject to human bias. So that's my first premise. And why am I basing that? For one, we are, if you're listening to this, if you're understanding this, you're comprehending this, you are human. So, with that, you can detect things, the nature of things, only through your human senses. You can't hear the way a dog can hear. You can't see the way an owl can hear, or the way an owl can see. And you can't reason the way anybody outside of a human can reason. So that in itself constitutes to me a human bias without any further explanation, but I still have to explain. What else dictates human bias aside from you being a human? Your proximity, your scope of reality. If you're in America, you've probably had an American education. You probably haven't been educated anything outside of American curriculum. You appeal to certain sciences that are within the reach of you. You appeal to a structure of math that is within the range of you. You appeal to a language, English. You understand me right now because of the language in which you speak, which is subject to your environment. So that constitutes and dictates your own individual bias, and not only individual bias, but we're talking about a collective bias as well. Individual bias is easier to break down than collective bias because we have something like objectivity. And when we talk about objectivity, for one, the meaning means multiple things. For one, words are ambiguous. Words are not only subject to meanings like inside the dictionary or encyclopedia, but they're also subject to whoever's viewing them, and based on how they can perceive words and how they understand words. So you talk objectivity, you look in a dictionary, there's multiple definitions already. You have a scientific definition, which means to alleviate or relieve human bias from an observation. So you're doing a scientific study, you resort to the science. Then you have a philosophical definition of objectivity, which means existing from my interpretation. I could be wrong too. There's no cut line of what a correct word precisely means. They mean different things within different times. I'm just giving you guys my meaning. Objectivity philosophically means existing whether or not the human mind is there or not to conceive it. So beyond human conception, something exists, like a natural occurrence, or let's say a tree. If I die, the tree is still here. So the tree is something that's objective. What's subjective is me defining the tree, saying that it is a tree, and the makeup of a tree. That's subjective. My reason to that natural occurrence is subjective. So philosophically, which is my standpoint, is as a human being, we cannot be completely objective. It's almost like saying we can be all-knowing. It's almost to say we are infallible. we are unlimited. And with those premises of me saying we're subject to human bias and our proximity, I'd be inclined to agree with the philosophical definition of objectivity as far as Immanuel Kant or someone who thinks that our reality is different from the natural existence of nature. Other things, like the scientific, that's the philosophical definition. I told you scientifically it's alleviating human bias or objectivity scientifically. But let's get more into that. When you do a study, for example, let's say you observe two people jumping and you observe it for 10 years and they do it 1,000,000 times apiece. And 999,999 times, one person jumped higher than the other person. And one time, the other person finally jumped higher than the guy who won the other almost 1,000,000 times. So, we can be objective in that sense. We can revert to the study of it, and we can make our opinion, which stands on the grounds of the science we did. So, I can conclude, okay, this person jumps higher than that person. They jumped 1,000,000 times and they only beat them once. That's more objective. But, again, philosophically, that's still subjective. Why? Because that's only on the basis of what you experienced. You've experienced those 1,000,000 times. You didn't experience any of the other times they've jumped. You didn't experience every single occurrence in both of their lives to know if that person's max jump wasn't higher than this person's jump. It was only based on your human experience, which still makes that grounded, great answer subject to your bias in the science you did. And this is the thing again. We take the word like bias and we look at it as negative. We put a negative connotation as if it lacks reason or ration, but each own's bias is their reason, is their ration. You ask someone their opinion, then you tell them to support it. It's their reason, but it's also their bias. If I tell you, I always tell you Kobe Bryant's best player of my generation. It's my opinion. That opinion is not solid. That opinion is just my thoughts, flimsy with no ground. It only has ground when I give you my biases. I like footwork, so he has better footwork from what I see. From what I see, he has a better jumper. That's my appeal. These are my objective realities. While someone else would appeal to maybe statistics and say, according to stats, a LeBron James shoot better. There's no objective plane that we all mutually have agreed upon. In that sense. In a sense of what the weather is, how many degrees it is, we've created an objective reality. Now this is the thing. Because of that philosophical definition, I don't like to call it an objective reality. Like I said, philosophically, the nature of the weather around us is beyond us. We can only perceive it from our limited scope. But we accept that, like if I ask you what's today's weather, you say 78 degrees, 78 degrees. We can accept that based on mutual agreements. This is what we call intersubjective reality. We mutually agreed upon this being the standard. We mutually agreed upon gravity's existence. We've mutually agreed upon the roundness of the earth based on our scope of observation. It doesn't deny that these mutual agreements are still within our scope of observation. They never go beyond human capacity. We cannot perceive past human capacity, which is the gist of this video, being objective. Because you hear people all day, I'm objective. Oh, I'm not biased, I'm objective. That's cool. But acknowledge what you're saying. When you say you're objective, you say you're appealing to a certain standard in which the masses claim is objective, which to me is really an intersubjective agreement. It's what's objective for now. 1745, the earth was flat. That was the objective reality. Now it's round. Philosophically, we can never objectively know the actual math behind the earth's shape, or the actual nature of gravity, or your spirit, or all these pretty much metaphysical existing ideas, or metaphysical capacities that we turn into ideas. We can never define them. So, back to the notes. The biases that we have, the objective realities that we have, are subject to flux. As I told you, the world was once flat, it's now round. We believed in, some of us believe in Darwin's theory of evolution. Some of us believe in religion. So the objective realities are subject to change universally, or not even universally, within our proximity. I can't say universally because I'm subject to my proximity. Another testament to my human bias and whatever beliefs I've conjured up and believed and grown to believe. I can't escape human bias. I can't escape my human bias. Every experience dictates my reality and constitutes how I see it from now on. If I don't have these experiences, I get other experiences that dictate how I see things from a different lens. Bias. We coming upon 12 minutes. I just wanted to give y'all my definition of human bias, objectivity, my theory. It's all speculative. If you think you can be humanly objective, hey, give me your reasoning. I think we cannot. We can only be scientifically objective, which is still limited to our experience, which means human objectivity is almost a form of being a robot. You want to be human or you want to be a bot? Human, bias. Bot, objective. It's dang, man. If I ask you how many times out of 10 someone, or if I ask you, hold on, let me give a better example. If I ask you who's faster, and then we do a study, and the motherfucker beat him 7 out of 10 times, you can conclude he's faster, more objectively. But still, you only got a small sample size. Even if it's broad, and even if it's 1,000,000 times, like the jumping example, small sample size. We can never relieve implicit biases, because the implicit biases are called objective, like our biases to science and our biases to math. Some of our biases, like mine, is towards philosophy. We can never relieve human bias, in my opinion. This is Real Talks, episode 12. Like I said, give me y'all thoughts. I'm on this walk, almost a mile in, running out of breath. So, thoughts, comments, human bias, let me know what you think. Dang.